very good evening to you and welcome to this edition of Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We are broadcasting from the Central Building here at the heart of our city, Kampala, live on our website, www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. We are also coming to you live on the different radio listening apps, which you can obtain from the apps of your smartphone. Download any, look for Radio 1 FM 90, and as long as you have an internet connection, you should be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe. Now, Radio 1 also offers you another opportunity via DSTV. If you have a DSTV connection, you look for audio channel 897. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host, and today being a Friday, we review the major events of the week. We'll be looking at some of the key happenings on the political scene. Well, this week, the NRM party conducted its leadership elections at the district level. They were largely peaceful, but the hotspots still recorded clashes. Among them, Gwemiaga and Wakiso district. There are also other places. Generally speaking, young people trounced the old guard in these elections. We are seeing more young people being elected to these topmost positions. And people are concerned that these clashes may even become visible as we enter into the season of looking for the different political, flag bearers for the different positions, especially member of parliament. But the biggest talk this week has been about the reported apology by President Yoweri Museveni and the First Lady Janet Museveni, as they attended a conference at Kololo. That conference called Light Up Uganda, which was organized by the Born Again Faith in our country. President Yoweri Museveni and the First Lady read out a joint statement in which they said they were taking full responsibility for the mistakes that have occurred in the country during the time of their leadership. They asked for forgiveness, in particular from Buganda and the entire country, and they also urged God to help them to find favor that they had at the time they were beginning their leadership in this country. Well, that development has left many talking. In international media, they are even talking about whether President Yoweri Museveni is having a change of heart. Political opposition here in the country has weighed in and saying, look, if he's serious with this apology, there are certain things that need to change. Some have gone up to the extent of saying he should consider not running in the 2026 general elections. Should we take this apology seriously? Are we likely to see things changing? Or it's just something that took President Yoweri Museveni off guard as somebody who went to attend this conference in Kololo. Inside the NUP party, the leader was in the north, east, and western Uganda to meet leaders from this party in a town hall setup. They're strategizing for the next elections. Well, one of the key highlights was his presence in Teso, where he talked about the issue of compensating war claimants. And one of the gestures he made there was to sign an agreement with the elders, but also gave out some cows to the elders who have apparently waited for very many years without getting anything from government. He talked about issues of justice in line with what we know as the Mukura massacre. There are some people who died after fire burnt them in a train wagon some years back, and he talked about things that he would change in that particular area. We also saw this week a birth of a new political party, the Democratic Front. A new political party was born, led by Matthias Impuga, who says its motto is real change, act now. He says it's going to bring freshness on the political arena. For some time now, Mpuga, who was NUP vice president in charge of Buganda region, was exchanging tough words with NUP, including calling its leaders untested. And so many people are saying they are waiting to see the kind of leadership is going to provide through this political party. The Democratic Party, led by Norbert Mao, is holding a delegates conference in Mbarara. And one of the major talking points there is the decision by Mao to take DP delegates to meet General Salim Saleh in Gulu up north. And we know he's tussling it out with Dr. Lulu Mebaiga and Richard Sebamala, who are MPs in the race for the party presidency. How is it likely to turn out? We are expecting a new political party to also be born next week. That is the People Front for Freedom, which is led by its de facto leader, jailed Dr. Kiza Besigye. They expect a full registration by next week. There has been no objection raised about the gazette, which was issued by the Electoral Commission some 2 weeks ago. We'll also look at issues to do with the national budget. There are issues there to do with debt repayments, infrastructure development, monetization and formalization of the economy. There are also concerns raised by the opposition. We know the next budget will be 72.376 trillion shillings. We'll have the State of the Nation address very soon, and the budget speech will be made to explain further what this budget actually stands for. I have a panel of 4. Let me introduce them. The Honorable Stephen Mkitale-Birawa, Executive Board Member, National Planning Authority, in charge of infrastructure and physical planning. He did represent the people of Blissa County in Parliament. Good evening, Honorable Mkitale. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Thank you, Kenneth. Good evening, Radio 1 viewers and listeners and fellow panelists. I want to congratulate the parents who have taken children back to school, and at the same time wish the teachers do their best with our children for the next, because they are parents most of the time, more so at this time in point when we are going to celebrate the Matters Day. I went up country for the NRM structures, and I saw the first groups right from Bombo up to Kafo. The guys coming from West Nile, from Kulacholi, and the morale is so high. I think we delayed to promote this domestic tourism as we wait for the arrivals of the international. This time people have, they are getting support from communities, drinking water, they are being received at churches, not like those days they have where to base. It's being improved. They have music around them. I found it very interesting, and I hope when the imams also do their site in Namugongo, we shall see, because there were more Muslims matters than the Christians.
And unfortunately, I am not part. I don't celebrate matters.
So it's very interesting, but as for now, we are just coming from as we prepare for the budget and launching of the NDP 4. I want to thank the National Development Forum, including the economic, the Makerere University Makerere team, and the operational expression team for the conference of the Musevenomics. Since yesterday, I can call it another semblance of a dialogue. You can listen to reality, what has happened to this country before the Museveni time, when the Museveni came, his achievements and challenges. I think Ugandans must be ready to listen to each other if you are going to understand the way to go.
All right. Our second panelist, Mr. Ronald Egesa, political and business analyst, strategist. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Kenneth, and thank you for inviting me to this panel.
And third panelist, Imam Idi Kasozi, lecturer, Islamic University in Uganda, member of the Justice Forum Party. Good evening, sir. Mr. Farmer, thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Kenneth. Good evening, my colleagues, and good evening, everybody that is tuning in. Just, I don't know whether it is a disclaimer or what. Muslims do not celebrate matters. No. Because nobody is sure of a matter.
There were Muslims at
I know.
the media center earlier today.
Whether they were there or not.
Talking about even how they are going to prepare the shrine.
Whatever they do.
They are receiving about 650 million from the government.
That is what they are looking for. Exactly. That's what they are looking for. They are not looking for anything. There is no, if we are celebrating matters as a community, we will be celebrating matters of Uhudi and Badri. When the prophet was just emerging and they were suppressing him, and several very strong men in the Islamic history died there, in Hamza and others. We don't celebrate. The whole idea, whoever is behind it, they are calling it tourism, they are calling it celebration, they are calling it whatever. When you ask them further, they say, no, we are going to do history. I don't need to go to Namugongo to document or to know the history of those who died. Okay? So if
even a museum?
If these people were killed because of their faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saws them, and their rewards, they have it long ago. So there is no need. We are having no value. We cannot add any value to them.
They are already in Jannah.
And for the living?
Yes.
For the living?
The living what?
Exemplary. What lesson do they learn from those who stood for their faith?
It is just that you should be committed to whatever you believe in. That's all. So
but also that is a very well, that topic is very controversial because when I see, like, for instance, a Muganda going to Namugongo, me, like, who is not a Muganda, I ask myself, did I read the right history or not? Because according to history, these people were killed by the council of Rechiko. It was a death sentence passed legally by the then Kabaka. And the history I learned from here was that what the Kabaka has said, nobody should. So when I meet the Muganda going to Namugongo, I ask myself.
All right. That's the voice of our fourth panelist, Mr. Fred Bamwine, who happens to be the commissioner in the office of the president, where he's in charge of all district commissioners, people who represent the president in the districts located in Karamoja. Well, let's begin our discussions, and I want to begin with you, Imam.
But I've not greeted him.
You'll have an opportunity to say much more.
No, I don't know what Kenneth is up.
You know, I know Bamwine.
I want to, first of all, greet the viewers and the listeners of Radio 1, and I'm one of those. There are very many fans outside there. Once it corrects 7, they stop other activities and they listen to what is happening here. So I thank you, Radio 1.
You've been monitoring?
Not on the monitoring, I've been actually active. At the same time, I know this, we may not talk about this. I normally call upon people. We are in this campaign period now. But kindly, before you go to campaign for somebody or for yourself, make sure that you have planted some food for home consumption and surplus for sale. Because after campaigns, when you go home, people want to eat. You not tell them that I've been campaigning for so and so. Please have food you have grown for yourself.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bamwine, for that very important message that you've passed on to the listeners to grow some food. We hope you're not just preaching, that you are an example.
I'm actually, may I do it in Kampala even? You go to Chanja. I live with cows, I sleep with cows. If you need, those who are on WhatsApp, when you go to YouTube.
Which is a breach of the law.
No, there is what they call
given the Kampala ordinance.
Peri-urban farming.
Peri-urban farming, it is there. That's why they have a vet doctor in KCCA.
All right.
What is he doing?
All right.
So when you go on YouTube and put in Bamwine Farm, you'll see what I'm doing in Chanja here.
Interesting. All right. Let's start this discussion, and I want to begin with you, Imam Idi Kasozi, very quickly. You're relevant with our topic of discussion today, and we are beginning with the political landscape. I've highlighted a number of issues there that made headlines this week. I don't know where you want to start from.
Thank you very much. It is interesting. And we are yet to see many other things happen, especially because we do have politicians in this country, largely no. We have people looking for positions. They are playing politics of positions. And as long as we are still playing in that game, we may not see our politics streamlined properly. People who would be helping us to develop ideas, to streamline politics, to develop policies that help the country grow, to support what Bamwine has just said, peri-urban farming. Many people even have bigger land than Bamwine, and they cannot think about it. Yesterday, I toured Ruero and Nakasongola, part of Nakasongola, and you can't believe, because I was looking for goats and cows. People have farmlands deep in those villages. The only challenge is, I have seen a lot here, talk about it in the next thing we are going to talk about, infrastructure development. The challenge is, how do they deliver their goods to many roads? Feeder roads are impassable. Small cars have no business there. And therefore, if you have, for example, a budget of 1 million on your farmland, therefore you can afford to buy a car of 20 million if you are going to remain afloat. Okay? And therefore a car of 20 million will not go to your farm. You have to leave it maybe at some point and either border or otherwise. So the whole idea all the people who would be helping us develop these ideas. I told you last time, and I want to reiterate it, that in a transit mode, the transit mode, academicians, all of them are waiting for appointments. There are no discourses, no serious discourses in any of these universities we have around here. We have 20 or so universities. But there is nowhere where there is a discourse that is targeting, targeting, for example, the department where he works now, this one, the Department of National Planning Authority. What are they planning? For whom are they planning? What is it that has made us fail to move with the National Planning Authority, which has been there now, I think, for a decade or so? Okay? Whereas previously, people who had this, what we call development plans, they were 5-year development plans. They would target something and you would see it. National Planning Authority, in a country where agriculture is the backbone, there is hardly will you see what we call extension workers trying to help people realize their desires, their aspirations. Because at least I am in farming, not one item, not two, but I have never seen anybody for the last almost 20 years. I have done this job. That the other day, last year, I went with a team of media. They were interested in theirs is Islamic culture and threat. And so they visited me to see what I'm doing. They recorded it, they had it. Last week or the other week, they posted it, I think, in TikTok. I don't know how many phones I have received. I don't know how many phones. And people ask me, Imam, are you serious? Do you also do this thing? Then I said, yes, I've been doing this thing, pineapple growing, for the last 18 years now, since 2016. Okay? 2006. I've been doing this. And I have, for maybe all this one has seen, you have seen, and
we have tested.
You have tested.
Your value addition products.
From a fresh pineapple to a snack. Okay? To a snack. But even ever since I have been doing this snack, I've not seen any serious person come to me, except one OB of mine who got interested, and he was saying, how can we help you? Him now as an OB.
Can I once again, as an officer, to say he's a product of Ulindi Farm School next to DFI. Yes. So the Ulindi years were not lost.
So what is important now? Our problem, politics, embedded in our economic development. I don't think we are soon to realize that. And that's why you see all these political parties emerging. Even when it is only me you have described as a political party that I belong to JEMA, this one is NRM, the other one is NRM, I guess I don't know. But he says none, and that is a big problem. For him to say none is a big problem. What he's promoting as a business strategist, he knows that one political statement can destroy all the business he's doing. One political statement like this can destroy. So that's why, even when you are not, you may not be partisan, but you must play some role in politics in order to shape one of the weakest points of third world or developing countries. We are very weak in participating in shaping the future.
All right.
So what I want to say, that these political units you see here, most of them have NRM is a reactionary political party. NUP is a reactionary political party. Democratic Party, it was a reactionary political party when it started. If you read the history, the Democratic Front is a reactionary, it is reacting. People's Front is reacting. So when we are reacting to situations that have emerged, we fail to plan.
By the way, I voted the Farmers Party in 2000.
You see. So when not only in politics, in any activity,
Right.
if you are just reacting to a situation and a scenario, you are not doing any help, because that if you fail to remove it, you fall prey to it, like NRM has become fallen prey to the whole machinations which we accused Dr. Milton Obote and his UPC and their team. We call it gerrymandering. This one is from Europe, this one is from, I think, the East. This one is from the West. I was born in the West. There was one sub-county called Mitoma. It was called Mitoma sub-county. Sub-county. It is now a district with 4 constituencies. With 4 constituencies. And the reason why they emerged, if you sit down, you will gerrymandering. And why is it? Because somebody is reacting to a situation. If my friend Bamwine loses an election and I still need him, or I fear he can create trouble, I have to create for him a parish, and he becomes a member of parliament.
All right, Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. Let's go for a break now. Imam has given us a good kickstart. When we return, we'll look at the views of the other people around the table as we continue reviewing the major events of the week. We've started with the political happenings in this particular week, and Imam Kasozi thinks that all the political parties we have in Uganda are reactionary and not premised to solve the problems that we faced. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. We continue after this break. Well, we're glad that you're still with us on Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Be part of this discussion by sharing with us your views via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. We review the major events of the week, and we're looking at this moment the major political happenings in our country. The guest, Honorable Stephen Mkitale Birawa, Executive Board Member, National Planning Authority, former Blissa County MP, Imam Idi Kasozi, Lecturer, Islamic University in Uganda, member of the Justice Forum Party, Mr. Fred Bamwine, Commissioner, Office of the President in charge of resident district commissioners from Karamoja region. He's also from the NRM party. And now coming on the mic is Mr. Ronald Egesa, political and business strategist. Mr. Egesa, very quickly, your thoughts on these major highlights on the political scene.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. I think on the issue of political parties, I want to concur with Imam Idkaso. He has prosecuted it very well, that they are reactionary. People are looking for positions. For me, the word I use is jobs. People are just looking for jobs. And these political parties are vehicles for jobs, for them to get jobs. So I wouldn't want to ban my oil on that issue. I will now
go to the issue of the apology by the head of state and the First Lady. You see, Uganda as a country right now is at what you'd call a political precipice. Why? Because of either a deliberate or accidental way in which the current president, has handled the issue of transition. So, ordinarily, I wouldn't comment about issues of the family of the president, and it wouldn't be of interest to any citizen to talk about the family of the president. We would stay clear of issues to do with the family of the president. But unfortunately, the president brought his family forward in our politics as a country. So when we are discussing the politics of Uganda, we cannot divorce the president's family. So this issue of the apology, much as it has excited people, when you look at it and bring nuance to it, or you try to put it into context, you realize it is actually a parochial event, purely touching on their family politics. It is purely family politics. It shouldn't have been a national issue. But then the interesting bit is that family politics is actually around a polity called Uganda. Why? In the family, there is a contestation. There are two camps who are contesting on who is best positioned to succeed President Museveni in case there is a transfer of power. Now, these two camps, I will classify them into two. And I think the listeners and my colleagues here will easily understand who falls where. I will not mention the names of who falls which camp. There is the Bachwezi camp and the Balokole camp. Yeah? Now, the Bachwezi camp is militarily strong. The Balokole camp is not militarily strong. They might have military sympathizers, but they are politically entrenched.
Ideologically?
Politically entrenched. They have people within the political class and of course the civil service, the bureaucratic setup of the government. So what is happening now is that because the two camps, it's a family issue. So the Balokole camp, knowing very well that President Museveni is a military man, his first preference would be on the camp which is leaning towards military control of power. They have to handle the public relations of showing people that he's actually also with them. Okay? So they drag him to appear, to make public appearances in their events. And it is in one of such events that this apology came. In the event of what? Of the Balokole camp. So he comes and he's told to read. Now, I am not a body language expert, and I'm not here to pretend that I read the body of the president. No, but at least we all saw that he was given a document to read alongside the First Lady. Yeah? Those of us who know President Museveni, he has told us countless times that he ditched this whole thing of Christianity and religiosity. In fact,
what he ditched is religious sectarianism, maybe.
No. He ditched religiosity.
He's a religious.
No. He quotes the Bible when it is of literary value to his speeches, not because he believes in it. Yeah? When it is of literary value to his speeches, he quotes it. But he said he used to be a Mulokole back in the day. Then he said, no, he ditched it. I think I am. Right. Yes. So now that it was purely public relations by the Balokole camp to show that we still have him, much as public perception might be that he's leaning towards the Bachwezi camp.
So who leads the Balokole camp?
I think the listeners know clearly who leads the Balokole camp, and they were the conveners of this event where the apology was read. So now we are. So you can see that it was purely a mother and a daughter and a son-in-law organize an event. They invite the president to show that he's with us and he's not with the other people. Yeah, because you see, the events leading to that particular apology, you had the first son-in-law coming on the pulpit and saying, you cannot introduce the issues of Bachwezi when we have gone the Christian way. Yeah? So it was a direct jab to the other side. Then, so before the other side could actually respond, what happens? They now bring the president and say, you read this alongside the First Lady. So clearly they show that we are with him. We have him now. This, ordinarily, like I said, we shouldn't be discussing this matter, but because the meat that they are going to share, the prey is actually our country. That's why we are discussing it.
So your analysis of that apology, genuine or?
No, in other words, I'm saying the president is beholden to family politics. Okay? So there is nothing in that apology. Ugandans should just ignore it, dump it in the dustbin. There's nothing in that apology. The president is just trying to play his family politics, and we should understand it in that context. Any man will want to do that. You are neither here, you are neither there. You don't want to show favoritism in your family so that you are safe. That is what any man will do in a home.
So you seem to agree with the people who reacted in a negative way, looking at some of the statements which were put across by mainly the opposition leaders. Is that what you're leaning towards?
No, I'm not leaning towards that sentiment, because those people were trying to debate it on its merit and trying to interrogate the genuineness of the president when he was saying those things. For me, I'm simply telling you that the president, this is an affair that should have happened behind closed doors. Like he resolved so many other issues, like all of us resolve issues in our homes. But because now they are playing, our country is at stake. That's why I said we are on a political precipice, because a blow up in the family politics is going to affect every Ugandan. Those of us who are doing business here, we will be affected because the family politics has blown up. Yeah. So because the president brought his family to the fore of our politics, we also have no choice but to watch closely what happens in his family. So it was purely a family affair. I don't want to go into the merits and demerits. Not everything that a man agrees to in a home, he believes in it. No, you can do certain things just to have peace in a home. and to buy some sleep. That's I'll put the matter to rest at that.
All right. Let's now move on and hear from. We want to hear from Mr. Bamwine. Mr. Bamwine, very quickly, we want to hear your thoughts on the major political happenings. I don't know if you want to react to any of the comments that have come across the table, but you can share with us your view very quickly on the political scene.
Now, for me, first and foremost, politically, I'm one of those who are disappointed by the elite, more so the political elite. I read history, and I have been following all the events of political in this country. There is no day I have not known what takes place. But the challenge that we have as a country, people who get degrees, masters, PhD, they feel they have reached, they have arrived. And that's the biggest crisis. Because Kawarega and Mwanga were not even necessary dropouts. In terms of education, they were not educated.
They were, yeah.
Mwanga had
I don't know how to say it.
And,
In terms of book learning,
yes, yeah, but I don't know.
but indigenous knowledge, very
Yes, in terms of book learning.
not just they were educated. Because that was the
How do we put it?
education.
That
of
was
that
the
time.
education of
Yes.
that time.
What I'm trying to say, they were not with this level of education of ours,
Yeah.
which we think
Schooling.
schooling.
Yes.
I think that is the right word.
lack about.
But in their level of understanding, until their death, they knew and realized that foreign powers and foreign people who colonized us were bad. That's why I was saying whether a Muganda going to Namugongo, I don't know what it means. And actually, me, I have taken it to another notch. My son is called Shaka, another one is called Kabarega, another one is called Mwanga. At least, if I cannot, let me at least name them.
That's a consolation at least.
Yeah, at least. Because these people are using arrows and spears, and they resisted. They tried until they were let down by their other nationals. But here, look at this table here. If everybody was put down on his papers on this table, you can't imagine. But nobody is concerned about our destiny. Others are, when Kenneth is on Radio 1, is comfortable. When is a commissioner, is that he has reached. Imam is that you know?
I am in my garden.
Even when in his garden. Is it because of the food we eat? What is it?
Maybe it's because of the peace that
You saw rich-
your NRM brought. That's what you've been telling us for all these years.
Yes, but I'm trying to say,
everybody has
that's why I'm
to
singling
relax.
out
Mm.
the elite. We have not played our role. 1962 should have been a beginning of liberation. It was not an end. But everybody will tell you we're independent. Which kind of independence are you talking about? If 64 years you are still producing and exporting raw products. If at this stage in this 64 years, this one is NRM, they said the other one is GMA, the other one is DP, the other. Who is for Uganda?
Gentlemen, if Mr. Bamwine is disappointed, I don't know what the rest of us should be.
No, that's why I'm attacking you people to
You
get
see,
the people.
the reason
We have not played our role in our generation.
well, you as the NRM people carry the
Yeah,
hugest
you here
burden.
now.
I'm pointing to you because you've been
No,
in
no,
power
no,
for the
no.
biggest share of our independence.
But what you are forgetting is one. First of all,
You
first
cannot
of-
put
first of all-
you cannot put all of us on
first of all,
the same
first
plate.
of all, on the issue of the biggest share of the time,
Mm.
it was not an accident. It was by design.
Well,
But we should have used it to reach a notch higher.
your leader here,
Because
your
the voter,
Mm.
the voter, a vote of DP, a vote of NOP, a vote of UPC, a vote of UNRM all of them, they want good roads. Mom has told you. All of them, they want to go to health center and find drugs and health workers. All of them, they want to have money in their pockets and take children to school and anything. But the question is very simple. For instance, if I can use Parliament as an example, the Constitution says Parliament is the only organ, Article 76, 79 or 76, is the only organ that is supposed to make laws for peace, order, development, and good governance of Uganda. That's their main core responsibility. But when you look at what Parliament is discussing in most cases, where is the majority of preparation? How do they appear in their program? So we should have used this platform. This man Museveni and his time and his people, during their time, the method of communication was person to person. Because you risk and write a letter through post office, special branch will read it. But in this era, where you use an SMS of 20 shillings and you call 1,000 people, what are we doing?
You're forgetting that the system has become more complicated. They will intercept your communication because you are equipped with the.
Let us be
you are equipped with technology.
No, let us be sincere. When did you try and fail? And we are intercepted.
But Mr. Bamwine, without taking us too far from the discussion,
I'm taking it to the real one.
Your leader, His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, is seen apologizing for the mistakes that have occurred over the 40 years. Should we take that apology seriously?
You see, first of all, I didn't know that he's such a religious man. But now it goes back to what I was saying. Everybody's quoting that prayer. And that was the seventh function. This Light Crusade, this was the climax. They started in Busia, they went to Hoima, they went to Mbarara, they went to Guru, and it was the same player. But now, when it came to Koro, Ugandans, they think it has happened now.
No,
and in every region where they were going, that's how they were saying, especially for the people of this region, Busi and others, especially for this area, Bunyoro.
But the president wasn't there to read that.
He was there.
He
has been there all the functions.
We did see him.
Even in Mbarara, at Boma, he was there.
I follow closely the things
Even
that happen in this country.
Is it Kaunda Stadium?
Mr. Bamwine,
he was there.
The president has not apologized anywhere else apart from
I'm
Kololo.
telling you that same player is the same which has been rotating in the whole country. It started in 2021. This is 2025. Every year they carry it out. But now Mr. Kwagoji, an investigative journalist, has seen breaking news. Really? I wish I had powers. I would slap you. But I don't have the powers to do that. Let us be serious.
That's how violent you are.
Slap him.
I don't have the powers.
I have given you the powers.
The Imam has given you powers. And if you slap me, maybe I'll turn the other cheek.
That's what I'm trying to say. If it has happened 6 times, this is the 7th time. How unique is it? How come that when it was said in the Kaunda Stadium, nobody talked about it? When they said it in Luwero, nobody talked about it. When they said it in Busia, so really, let us put up our game. But me, what I was trying to say that I didn't know that he was such a religious. For Christians, they say if you sin, you're supposed to repent 70,000 times, 70 times, or up to 7.
It's just a strategy to encourage you to repent every day.
Yeah, then for Muslims, I think it's every after 2 minutes or 3 hours.
What?
For repenting. When you have sinned, if you have to repent. I think it is every. You're not supposed to get annoyed for.
Whenever you realize that you have
Exactly.
you are supposed to repay.
Then. So if you have a head of state in the history of this country who can come up and take responsibility for himself and the people he works with, for any misgivings that may not have taken place. I thought if we are honest religious people, we should give him a thumbs up.
All right. Let's now move on and hear from Honorable Mkitale
That's
Birawa.
another question now.
We want to hear from you on these major political happenings. Honorable Birawa, you've been in thick of things and interacted with some of these political players, but also you've been talking about so many things that have gone wrong in this country and proposing even solutions. Honorable Birawa, what's your take on these major developments on the political scene?
I thought you are going to say we are about to see the beginning of truth and reconciliation, the national dialogue, and that you are welcoming it.
This is the beginning.
Now, when there's some sense of remorse, and people are so hostile about it, then you scare me. But that's why, and again speaking, he has called them the elite. I don't know if I should call them the political class. I don't want to call them the intelligentsia. We should be very careful, and that's why for us, those who advocate for the national dialogue, the national conference, the Constitutional Review Commission, we put in clauses beyond the reconciliation. We even add amnesty naturally. Not only in a political office, not only being a new profession, even as a parish chief, there are things, there are errors we'll make by omission or commission. If a mean of 7 years, of 7 years, of vote interrupted twice, 4 years times 2, had errors. Why do you think there is an angel in 40 years who may not have, by omission or commission?
But you see, the person we're talking about is the one who has been vilifying the other past leaders, calling them a matter of names.
No, for
and
me,
therefore, at a level of benchmarking, you would think he's much better than them.
I like the Catholics. Penitence is a strength. To go before the Reverend Father and say, I have sinned. And the Bible says, whoever says is not a sinner, is what? Can I remind Jacob Olanya, my colleague's statement when we were talking about corruption? Whoever has not sinned, let him throw the first stone. So for me, I would actually want to take it further beyond that, so that it is not only in Uganda. UNAM for national dialogue, UNAM for regional balance, UNAM for regional tier government. I want to talk about equalization. I want the areas which have lagged behind. We are just going to launch the Karamoja plan, thanks to the president's directive about that. And really, I don't want to dwell so much on that. For me, and I'm not going to respond in a defensive manner. Actually, what Imam has been articulating is not saying that NP has not done its work. What Imam has been saying is what the president said in 1986 while pushing the political parties in alliance. That in absence of the middle class, which cannot articulate interest groups, what do you stand for? In absence of ideological clarity, what Imam is saying, though pushing it back to the planners, should be coming. Political parties have manifestos. Their manifestos have agendas. What ideological differences between FDC Katonga and FDC Entebbe Road? Zero. Nothing. What difference is between Impuga and his former boss?
Actually, the difference between Impuga and his former boss,
zero,
and that between FDC and Katonga and Najana Kumbi is the same. Which money to eat and which money
even
not
when
to
you
eat.
bring the Chwezi, which I'm hearing today, and you call the Chwezi and the what?
Barokoli.
And they were locally. What ideological difference is there? Zero. So we are in a crisis that until political, and that's why for me, I'm going to bring in my political science angle. I don't think we have political parties. It has been my position. It is still my position. Political parties are the only institutions which are licensed to seek power. And that's why I resent anybody going to the bush. I don't want anybody to go back to the bush. I don't want anybody to cause bloodshed. Because the time we lost was just too much. And I think everybody has learned a lesson. Let us exchange views. Let us discuss. Let us agree to disagree. But can you put on the table that in terms of the farmers' interest, where still 68 to 72% is still stuck, what are you bringing on the table for them? In terms of our manufacturers, the roofings and others who collapsed, what do you have to because we, and I have, you've never had me blaming colonialists after 62 years. They were responsible then. We've been around for 62. So why don't you decolonize? Why don't you break the colonial state? Instead, I see the political class rushing to be the collaborators, the neo-colonialists, the pro-imperialists, the agents, the collaborators, the compradors of the bourgeoisie. You know? So that you kill UTL, Uganda Post and Telecommunication, for you to be an agent and get 0.000 of MTN of Airtel. You kill the Ugandan bank so that you can be an agent of some foreign banks. You kill the PIDA, which used to maintain my village road, is complaining a very bad love to bring the so-called contractors. In which district do you expect every district to run to? But PIDA, with their wheelbarrows and softwares came, I think, after like how many years? To see a grader coming for bigger works.
And supported by Bulungi once every month.
With Bulungi once every week. The wells were cleaned by Bulungi once, a parish chief who never went to a blackboard school, but was highly educated. So for me, I want to say, and I don't know, people are in primary elections. People are looking for flags. NRM, I have the structures already at the district level. Next month, we are nominating candidates for parliament and all other structures. Electoral Commission gave us a roadmap long ago. So if all these political parties are fighting among themselves, including my NRM also having the MK, so you start wondering. You can imagine, Man U is going to play with Arsenal, but for the whole time of preparation, they are fighting themselves. Will they really meet when they are ready? So what I have seen, FDC is fighting itself. It is fighting. So I think NRM should not even waste time.
All right. Spectrum
the election,
Extra already won.
Vyamukama is very lucky. He has no job to do at that level.
Let's go for a break. When we return, we'll shift our gears and look deep at some of the issues that have come across. But also remember, there's a segment where we'll be discussing the national budget and issues to do with the economy, which feed into some of the key issues that have come across on this table, especially from Imam Idi Kasozi, the Honorable Stephen Mutalebirawa, Mr. Bamwine, who raises so many important things about us not thinking about the destiny of this country, which also touches on the economy. But also we have the strategist here in studio, Mr. Gesa, who will also help us to sum up these issues. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Spectrum Extra continues. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. We are looking at the major happenings on the political scene. I have a panel of four: the Honorable Stephen Mutalebirawa, Mr. Ronald Egesa, Imam Idi Kasozi, Mr. Fred Bamwine. We began by looking at a number of issues on the political scene, including the apology by President Yoweri Museveni, developments in the different political parties, And now we need to dig deeper on some of the issues that have come across, and I want to go straight to the person who kick-started this discussion, and that's that other than Imam Eid Kasozi. Imam Eid Kasozi, some of the reactions on the table came from the statements you made, but we wanted also to hear from you from the issues themselves as highlighted on our order paper today, as they happened on the political scene, and what you make sense of it. Around this table, you have a bigger historical perspective of the political terrain in our country by virtue of your age and experience. Imam Eid Kasozi.
Now, thank you very much. Maybe just one simple comment about the apology. You say I've tried to listen to the apology. I don't see it. I don't see it. You know, President Museveni should thank the Almighty because of being one of the luckiest persons this country has produced. Irrespective of all his failures in many things, some of them intended, some unintended, because as a planner of FONASA, as a planner of NRA, he excited very many people. And for him, he had a lot of anxiety, which to him seems to have come true. And even things he did do unintentionally, God has made easy for him. That's why his colleagues, senior men and women, will tell you how they were partly misled or denied or lied to.
Betrayed.
Shortchanged.
What Kazola called betrayed by his leader. Miriam Matembe somehow also moves to that thing. If you read the book of Major General from Bunyoro, Charles Gonza, if you look about those manuscripts of BSJ, I think summarized in the Munta newspaper, and other writings. If you look at the book by the late Major General, I think he died, Major General Pecos Kutesa, there are things that challenge people's minds. And unfortunately, few of us read those books. That's why sometimes when you talk about them, somebody, do you have a copy? You see, do you have a copy? Until you tell him, you go to the bookshop. Of course, some copies are no longer in the bookshops.
There's also another book, The Correct Line.
Yes, the crisis of confidence. Or if you look at a book by Professor Kasozi, a recent book about Baba Mayanja himself, the man. I don't know how many have read it. All these things are there, but President Museveni remains lucky.
And President Museveni himself also has written books.
I know. I know he is.
And in there,
with a lot of contradictions between what he wrote and what he practices. And actually, President Museveni helped me to realize my. One time I was approached by several media to come and talk about myself. Surely the Jovu Day, Muntu Wabantu, and whatever. All of them I refused. Because I told them, by then I was in my 50s. And I told them that, I can talk about myself if I am 60 and above. I can. And I told them, go and talk to many people who have a lot of history of this country, whom you are bypassing just because you are excited with some people who are 25 years. There are those whom they recorded 25 years, these musicians, whatever. Today when you see what they do and what they say, I think now those media people, maybe when they sit behind and say, hey, this person, because I know time changes people. There are many things I used to do 10 years ago I can't do now.
So I can see you fear what they call this a few moments later.
So, therefore, what I want to say that President Museveni may not have apologized, but he realized that such a statement could pass by, and then people could get excited over it. and even waste a lot of time talking about it. But when you listen to it, what apology is there? Number two, why do you say Uganda in particular and Uganda in general? Atrocities committed to the Itesoites, to the Langis maybe, to the Acholis.
It has been there.
During, yes, has been there.
Same apology.
They need a stronger. Maybe Uganda, he was apologizing for Uganda. If he apologized, because it was the base. Because it was the base of relaunching his dream, and he realized it. And when you go through Uganda, okay, maybe he was apologizing for the bad roads. He was apologizing for people selling their land to come and buy borders, thinking that they are investing. He was maybe apologizing because of overcrowdedness on our roads, okay, and many other things. But in reality, I don't want to think it was apology, but that not withstanding, I think issues making the news in this country, many of them actually, sometimes they don't deserve the time we give. They don't. But just because we have been boxed into a smaller box, we are like grasshoppers eating up each other. Because if you listen to the new kids, the new kids, Democratic Front,
You're saying the Gen
the People's Freedom Party, if you listen to Mao yesterday, by even this fact alone that Mao took the delegates of DP to Salim Saleh, those of us who know what Salim Saleh does,
What does he do?
you don't know.
He does.
You don't know. When you pass by him, you are either seeking for a final ticket to see the big boss so that your issues are cleared, or he will clear you himself and then make you forget even what are real things that you need to do.
Can I give information on that?
Please do.
Yesterday, in the Musevenomics at Mistil, it is Honorable Mao who invited General Salim Saleh to make his submission, because the Uganda Development Forum is founded and chaired by General Saleh, but his deputy is Honorable Mao, Chairman Mao. But the detail is, in 1986,
You call it Uganda what?
Uganda Development Forum.
Mm-hmm.
In 1986, before the NRA captured Kampala, there was an agreement, there was a meeting with the DP.
In Nabingo, let
To
me
form
make it.
exactly
Let me make it easier for you. In
very,
Nabingo,
very near Nagalavi there, to form government. And if you check, the first cabinet of the NRA government is largely more than 12 DPs. All those brilliant DPs. So, actually, we were reminded yesterday, it is for 10 years NRM government was run by DPs. Until 96 election, Bulimbuzi kunkondo yayo, when Simo Gerere contested against the president. But even then, the remaining most powerful, including the deputy prime ministers, the Kajuras, the vice presidents, the specials, were all DP. So actually, DP has been in bed with NRM for a very long time. To the contrary,
They have
General
grandchildren.
Saleh is accusing Mao to have been a hardliner of the DP North at that time of the Northern Rebellion, and that's why possibly there was that disconnect for some time when Mao was. So, and clearly what I deciphered from that submission yesterday, the recent re-engagement of Mao cannot even be compared with 1986, can't even be compared with the 96. Actually, he just went with the surrenders and a few. So, but there is a much older
relationship.
But
and I'm just giving information.
no, Honorable Mkitale is spinning. That is spinning.
No, I am giving it
Yes.
as it happened yesterday.
Actually, General Saleh
I've not interpreted anything.
was spinning, yeah, because in 1986 there was no agreement between NRM and DP.
It was.
No.
He has not been in a meeting.
There were several players.
Yes.
Yeah, even what the president used to call progressive UPCs. Yeah, there were several players, and he created what he called a broad-based government. It was not a coalition of two entities. So when they start saying, you see, they're just spinning to try and cleanse Norbert Mao of the stench that he's carrying.
Possibly according to you, perspective.
What I can say.
No, for me, I'm just analyzing.
That's your opinion, but it's a fact.
Yeah, it is a fact.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
for both of you, for the interjection. But what I can say, President Museveni, in 1986, he was right to pick on those people so that they can help him fit into the international system, which he was criticizing all the time. And if you can see the dockets, Semwogerere, Foreign Affairs, okay? Finance, planning, the similar, people like Nyanzi,
Attorney Generals, everybody.
Abmayanja was so the target was that's why I tell you he's a lucky man. He was using these people to pave way for what he has become today. And that's why when he was changing the constitution, term limits, age limits, he used the same group of people who those who had been behind the names you have mentioned to make it to come true by simply tipping them. You have traveled, you know what is tipping.
Yes.
And in tipping, for the West, tipping is not corruption.
In France,
Actually, as a matter of fact, somebody serves you food, you give him 10 pounds, you are expecting a change of 3, and you can keep waiting for him, because for them to use it, they just go. You may think he has
if you don't give it, you are uncultured.
Exactly. So what I want maybe to say, this thing called the Uganda Development Forum, organizing what you call Musevenomics, it is deliberate. I don't know how I've been there, but I will try to follow and see who has presented what he has presented, and then maybe next time I will tell you why Imam Kasol said what he said.
All right.
Because as I told you, the majority of our people, the intelligentsia, the academicians, the so-called political leaders, they are all in the transit lounge, waiting for the next flight. And who has the coupons? President
Boarding
Museveni.
pass.
Yes, the boarding passes. President Museveni, in 2 forms. Number 1, he has the positions to give. Number 2, he has bags of money to give. And this is what the majority of Ugandans are targeting.
But as an intellectual,
yes.
Is there anything wrong to discuss?
No, I don't have it. I don't. Who were discussing?
The professor.
The peasants were there. Did you have some peasants?
Yes, there was a peasant farmer who was speaking for the cooperatives which were lost.
A peasant farmer to speak for the cooperatives.
Yes.
A peasant farmer.
All right.
No. Those ones which were taken over by the Indians and.
All right.
So what I want to say,
as you witness,
all these are targeted programs,
all right,
to seduce us into some position, all right, of the next route that we are going to do.
All right, thank you very much, Imam. Let's hear from Mr. Bamwine, Fred Bamwine.
Okay, let me take it from there. You see, I get surprised when I see Comrade Kasos labeling that they are trying to seduce us. NSN government must go its way to give an olive branch, to dialogue, to convince. So if the one convinces you and you join him, what's wrong with that? Because the issue is building a united country. So I can't deceive you now, because I'm working with the president, that I don't wish him well. It's my responsibility to reach out to those who are opposed to him and say these are the ideas. The president and the NRM now, they are saying they are making sure Ugandans get household income and job creation, and also making sure that we do value addition on our products. What is your program? Do you have something better than this? If this is good, why don't you join us and build this country? That's why I say that that the elite in this country, the political elite in this country, have done a disservice to Uganda.
Some information. Do I need to join you in developing the country, or you create a scenario, a situation where I do my business? Because many people out there in these countries which are developed, they are not in any of the political parties. They don't need. But for us here, when you are progressive and you are not with them, they want to kill you or what?
No.
Because they are suspicious that you may work against them.
You see, when I was starting, I challenged you. I want to see this organization, which Mr. Kasuza has created, and invited me, who works with President Museveni, to discuss for Uganda, and I have let him down. Because you cannot develop a country without talking to people, without even listening to those who are opposed to you. And that's why President Museveni, I think, defeats most of his competitors. At his 40 years almost, he's still listening. He knows there are those who are opposed to him. He knows there are some things that have not been done. And he's saying, I take full responsibility.
And Mr. Wamwine,
yes.
Are you aware that in 1981,
yes,
when he went to the bush,
yes,
there was a parliament?
It was?
Parliament is a house of ideas for people to converse. And the Honorable Semugere went to Parliament to talk to President Obote.
Then you shouldn't have, I think you shouldn't have spoken. That Parliament you're talking about, somebody called Sebugwao, I think I'm right, the MP of Mtiana. He stood up in that Parliament, and as he said, it seems the money for marketing bonuses is being stolen. We need to investigate it. That man, Sebugwao, has never reached his constituency, Mtiana, to date.
But the same can be said here. In 2017, people were beaten for saying you don't amend the constitution.
But are they
so the two parliaments are not different.
No. You see, the more we joke about this country,
as we wind up,
the more we get challenges. We are talking a situation whereby, I guess you are here, somebody comes in, he picks you, we are here, and he shoots you there, or you disappear. And if it is happening now, that's what Museveni is saying.
What about to keeping you in the basement, teaching you some other language?
No, that's when you hear that prayer. That's why that prayer, he said, I am taking full responsibility for myself and those I'm working with.
Agents.
Really? I think that one should, you should give it a listening.
All right.
Full responsibility. Which head of state in Uganda would have done that? We have been here. We are not children. Those who are not there, they have read. A head of state of Uganda say that, I think he needs a plus.
But when you
quickly, Mr. Bamwine,
when you take what he has stated, this was a script written for him to read.
What I really want to call upon all of us here and the listeners, I detest the kind of political parties we have. Although it is a way we went into, it is not a solution for this country. Because, whether you like it or not, we are democratically poor. Once we are democratically poor, it means we are in one class. So if you do, now for instance, there was UPC and DP, I think CP and CP. Why was there a need to create FDC? Now FDC has
reactionary for refusal to have democratic
FDC has
change.
come. Why was there a need now to create NUP and others? I hear we are about 46 political parties. All of them aspiring to remove Prime Museveni as government. Really? Is that strength? So to me, the political parties that are there now, people are looking for jobs.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bamwine. Let's go to Mr. Egesa now, and then we move on to another topic of discussion. Mr. Egesa, if you can...
I've not responded.
You have not yet responded. We'll hear from you. Let's hear from Mr. Egesa very quickly. Picking on from what you've had on the table.
Now, let me talk about political parties. Like I said, I largely agree with the submission that has been made before by Imam Id Kasozi, and now Mr. Bamwine is saying he also agrees with the same. But then I will say, I want to put this into perspective. We should stop pretending about governance and leadership in our country. We need to craft our own workable form of democracy. What we have is democracy on stilts, or a propped up democracy. To switch from the single party state that President Museveni operated in from 1986 to 2005, it was not because he had now bought into the politics of pluralism. No, it was because of donor pressure. Yeah, so he went in there, but he went in there with the spirit of somebody who says, "You are insisting that I should share my mango with you. I will put saliva on it so that you do not enjoy it or you lose interest in it."
Like, you know, in your primary school days.
Yes, in our primary school days, we had those boys and girls who would sprinkle saliva on the mango and say, "You are not going to eat this mango," much as you have been quarreling for it and insisting.
I saw people pouring red pepper in all the
Even that as well. There are so many of these sabotage techniques. So what I'm saying is that these political parties, when you look, like it has already been litigated about absence of ideology and the like. For me, the issue is on the brand of democracy that we have. It is pretentious. It is a propped up form of democracy. You cannot tell me you are having democracy when your elections are funded by foreigners. For me, I cannot agree with that. If we cannot fund our electoral commission 100%, we have no business holding elections. Except for purposes of saying, you see, for me, when people say that President Museveni has not done, his government has not done much in fighting unemployment and creating opportunities, I always point them to the political class. At least he has created 3 million jobs in the political class. That has been the most successful form of employment created by the NRM government.
Disguised unemployment and employment.
No, that is a subject for debate. I think it is a form of disguised. No. To some, it is disguised unemployment. Now, for example, to you, Mr. Honorable Virawa, it would be disguised unemployment. But to others, many of these politicians in our political class cannot hold a day job in the private sector. They are not qualified. We have some of the worst characters purporting to lead. So if you ask me, I'll tell you, we need to have the conversation that we should be having right now is what form of governance do we need?
All right.
I have always quoted the words of Ali Mazrui, professor. He said that you can teach people how to read and write, but you can never teach people how to govern themselves and lead themselves. You cannot. So the West could have taught us how to read and write. They could have introduced us to their religious beliefs, but they cannot teach us how to lead ourselves because the circumstances are different, the history is different, and therefore we cannot leapfrog the stages that they went through to advance their democracy and then attain the level of democratic ideals that they enjoy today.
All right, Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. Let's take a break now. When we return, we'll give Honorable Mkitale an opportunity to respond, but also lead us in our next segment of discussion where we're going to be looking at the national budget and what it means for the economy of Uganda, given the state that it is. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. There are a number of comments that have actually come in. I'm going to read a few of them and then allow the Honorable Stephen Mkitale to come in. Radio 1 has the President told us exactly what wrong he was apologizing for. Secondly, about the budget, we are going to see agriculture being more given more money than expenditure on administration. That is Martin listening in from Zana. Good evening, Spectrum Extra. Most Ugandans don't take Museveni's apology seriously, though. Broadly speaking, what sounds like an apology is just a political script to sound religious. Museveni's apology, if tested against what he said in Masindi, that Museveni says he's not your servant or your employee, Ugandans, but a freedom fighter fighting for his beliefs. How can someone fighting for his beliefs apologize? How can he apologize to Ugandans when he's not answerable to them? This is just empty political rhetoric as we are getting closer to another general election in 2026. That's Fred listening in from Gayaza. Imam Kasozi, all other parties are reactionary apart from JEMA. For your information, it is the NRM that sets the pace and the rest react. Then Imam Kasozi talked about farming and transport. I have a small farm and I identified a small truck I could afford to import from Japan to aid my farming. I was told I couldn't import it to Uganda. Why age limit? I wondered, are some of the policies pro-Uganda? Has anybody heard that US, India, China are still using coal because it is in their national interest, although the environmentalists are against coal? That's a question there. Anderson, surprised how the guests think they know how Museveni operates. I doubt anyone knows. Amo Martin, listening in from Bale, says all political parties in Uganda are special business entities whose income cannot be taxed by URA for income tax. Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi of NOP is targeting 100 MPs in 2026, while Norbert Mao of DP is targeting at least 50 MPs next year. We need another fundamental change. Then we have masters and PhD holders feel they have arrived. Bamwine and his fellow RDCs behave like demigods with guns. They are Mwangas and Kabalegas. They Mwangas and Kabalegas can't keep people in basements. Bamwine's snatch political victory of Nalkola. Bamwine has no more authority to demean masters and PhD holders. Let him keep up holding the gun. That's a comment from Richard. Good evening, Kenneth. George from Bunga listening in says, Kenneth, I feel breathing eternally. My soul I feel my soul is bleeding eternally for my country to hear the age group of Bamwine shelving ugly thing that has happened under this regime at the cost of a new generation without any apology to the public because of their selfish interests and survival. Then we have another comment here, Henry in Banda. Thanks for the program. I always look forward to it on Friday. Imam Kasodi makes very interesting comments about political parties in Uganda being reactionary. The term reactionary politically means being conservative. However, if Imam means that the political parties are formed as a reaction of the current state of affairs, then we shall agree that all political parties all over the world start as reactionary before they grounded themselves in principles and ideologies. How do you develop any ideology as a new political party in such a political environment? How do you discuss improving farming as a political party when you can't be allowed to even mobilize or complain? When just a small gathering is criminal, when the ruling party thinks of infiltrating and destroying other political parties. Well, there's so many other comments coming in. I'll be reading them as we progress with this discussion. But let's now hear from Honorable Stephen Mukitali.
Yeah, you see, we should take this deficit in the civic competence and the maturity of institutions called political parties very seriously. As I was saying, political parties are the only institutions supposed to propagate an ideology, articulate their interests, and aggregate and recruit citizens. So by the time you talk of Yamukama's roadmap, people are going to make an informed choice. So in absence of that, you get spontaneous, like I warned in the 2020. If all political parties are dead, let us be ready for the spontaneous arrival. And it arrived. People said, how did you know? Because I knew there was a vacuum. So even right now, what we are discussing, and we should take this matter very seriously. Because by now, why I was talking about manifestos and ideology, there are matters which should be on the table. Job creation for our children, our education system.
One listener he actually says the political environment does not allow us to have that discourse.
So for me, that's why I'm saying, and please understand why I emphatically talk about the need for a discourse, a national dialogue. Because without that, we are in vanity. You cannot be up to this stage. Nobody is talking about what's bipartisan interests. You see, these Kenyans, why sometimes I like them. The political parties can form every election. They are even doing alliances. But on top of everything, they all agree on security. They all agree on supporting tourism. They all agree on business. I think possibly because most of them are business empires. And they all speak for ethnicity in a positive manner, unity in diversity. When the guy on the Somali border is speaking, he speaks for all those pastoralists and the meat industry and the creameries. When the mountain people speak, they speak for their economy. When the Kisumu guys are speaking, the Rift Valley guys, they speak for their economy. Now, Uganda, we are very far from that level of articulation. And that's why the special purpose vehicle, all the political parties, I can say, with a political science background, do not exist in Uganda. Now, aware of that challenge, how do we as a generation, I am now a grandfather, you know? My generation is now, we are becoming senior citizens. These are our years. Eh? And you wonder, what am I bequeathing my grandchildren? Eh? Because students of political science and economics, you know, of my grandchildren are going to say, what did our grandparents do?
Our judge was a member of parliament.
Yeah.
Close up the mic.
What
Say our judge was a member of
and
parliament.
what did he do when he was in parliament?
He earned me, he earned salary.
That's why when I was, before I came here, before I went to parliament, I used to speak about nation building. I used to speak about law content. What's good for the citizen? I used to talk about the common good, the bipartisan issues. Eh? And I would want to see us getting interested in what at the end of the day is going to help the other group, the taxpayer, which Imam is talking. The farmer who feeds the politicians, most of whom are not productive. The taxpayer, the manufacturer, the peaceful person, a transporter, who is taking us. You know, sometimes we blame borders when we are actually responsible. Border came to fill a vacuum. If you had a good multimodal transport, which I'm talking about in Vision 2040, the border would not have space. So they are filling a vacuum, and in a very aggressive manner, but also you go to Mulaga and see the word for those who are in need. And see how many days, not forgetting the security threat, because, but it's the most.
But they also security asset.
It is also the most. It's the most expensive mode of transport in Africa. A person who comes from Kasoko at 12,000 with a border in the morning and goes back, is spending 24,000 a day, meaning he spends 720 per month, meaning you can actually afford a mortgage.
Musevenomics.
You see? So these are the things we should engage. So I would want to hear the political class agreeing on the fundamentals of a country. If we don't agree, even the debate we are transiting into of the budget will not help us. Because if you're going to discuss a budget and you only discuss about expenditure, you rarely talk about the revenue side, then what budget are you talking about? You're going to end up with debt stress, which Kenneth is saying here. Because all the time you are saying, you know, I want more money for my district, for my town council, for another constituency. All those are expenditures. In the commerce of S2, S3, a budget is balanced. You don't have to be simple. Balanced. Income and expenditure. So how did we come to start having expenditure for many years above them? Interestingly, the colonialists will keep abusing. The money we are asking for is from their taxpayers. So how do you expect to live? On the imperialists, which Bamwini has related very well, on their taxpayer savings, and then you start abusing them. They will give whoever pays there's an old adage, whoever pays the piper calls it.
Play me the next song.
If we want to live within our means and say to hell with colonizers, let us live within our means. I can give you another story of our Museveni the other day. When the president came in with some people called him a Marxist, with the barter trade. Things got stuck. Who are the guys who took him the World Bank? UPC. Sarich, Kajuka. Those were the UPCs. Of course, Kajura on their side was from DP. You know? So you find you accept to live a lifestyle Artificial. You know what's right, but you refuse to live to what you believe in.
And because you're a survivor.
Yes, because you are living beyond your means, to be exact. So for me, as we transit into this debate of the budget, I would want us to say that number one, Uganda has priorities. And let me even put it this way. We are now discussing the beginning of NDP4. The last NDP3 is ending in June 30th. So actually, as we read the budget 2 weeks from, less than 2 weeks from now, we shall also be launching the new NDP4. But NDP4 is coming at a time when the new world economic order is becoming unpredictable, is more turbulent. We suffered the NDP3 implementation largely because of the COVID-19 2 years. We suffered the issue of Ukraine and Russia battle. We suffered the challenge of the Israel and Gaza. Those external challenges affect us. Uganda does not live on an island. We are in the global economy. In that global economy, things external affect us. More so at a time when we are East African community. We are brought in Somalia, we are brought in Sudan, we are brought in DRC. We must be ready to compete. Because you don't know who is coming after Trump. Trump has created another complete picture. The president said, again, this when we talk about Musevenomics in one way, when we are told to wait for other countries to have their own COVID
vaccine
and sanitizers, he said, wait a minute. You mean we can have to queue? But God was good. He gave us a good DNA, which did not suffer like the French and Italian who are being offloaded on like the Kitezi trucks, which are dumping waste. That's when we said, can we make our own drugs? Can we start making some of these things? So we really need to, first of all, understand. Before even you attempt to say want to make a budget, do you understand the geopolitics, the geoeconomics, the new international economic order? Are you aware that if you let make a decision today, an investor will go and invest in Tanzania? For example, in tourism, we have what we call the East African Common Visa. I can use the same visa, you know, in Arusha. From Arusha, you are watching already the Kilimanjaro. You have the Masai Maras. And from there, you can come to Uganda last. So we are in the era of competition. Even in power, we are in the era of interconnection. So it's before, for me, from a planning angle, before we take a lot of time discussing the number, because the numbers you have are very little. I talked about the debt. We have already committed 30% of our budget in debt servicing. Debt servicing is first call in the budget. We have statutory expenditures, which are monthly, including salaries and rentals and other things. So that does not give us a lot of discretionary resources. So aware of that, what is that are we supposed to do? And that's why the president in the strategic direction has brought what we call the 10 growth strategy. That we have to move this economy from the paltry $59 billion to at least 500 in the NDP4. But for us to be able to reach the expectation of the Vision 2040, we are talking of $500 billion. It looks as if it is an uphill task, but it is not. If you just value, and I've said it here, if you just value added every agro produce, you will get more than 10-fold. If you refine every ore you will get, you will get the money. If we have been having dim power, if we decided that every power we are generating is consumed by peasants, we don't have excess power. We actually need to be generating more. You know? I've just been talking about multimodal transport. So the plan is there. The intention is there. The vision is there. What we need, again, is the intelligence and the discipline. For me, I thank public service Senior Minister Public Service, Muruli Mukasa, and the Head of Public Service, and those responsible for rationalization, they have given a very comfort zone. I don't even call it rationalization. Where I'm not speaking now as NPA. This one I'm speaking my own idea. When I articulated the rationalization, restructuring, and mergers as a founder member of PACOP, I expected Sample to go home without any pay. Just say, I'm an idler, I've been malingering, I am corrupt, I have been a supplier in government, I am sending myself home, give me amnesty, and not get any package.
All right.
But people,
all right.
The way to be. So we need very radical reforms if we are going to really deal with these challenges. And we know the problems where. But, you know, we want a seamless, we don't want to hurt people. Then so really there are areas I can say the president is very lenient in some areas.
All right.
But finally, the point I don't want us to miss, I talked about the generation. Possibly the president is this saying, for me, I've done shipping internationally, but I'm also from a fishing community where we do water transport. The softness of a chain is its strength. President Museveni, in all these things we're saying, he's dialoguing with this one, it has helped him to live 40 years in power. The rigidity of this younger generation I am seeing, both in my NRM MK group, in the NUP, in the so-called these younger people who are trying to take over, they cannot last. It is important. I have said more hard things in the media before I joined the parliament. But I went on media from Makerere, by the way, if you want to know.
All right, let's hear from
so I want to thank the generation of the president for being accommodating.
All right. Time is not on our side.
But the hardline group, you disagree with him. Mr.
Bamwine, on the budget, very quickly.
I'm worried of my
but the budget, first of all, I want to disagree with Muchitali.
Leave Mukitale with his view.
Yes, no, in terms of budget and the country and the economy.
Okay.
We have countries which we admire, those which have been like us, the East Asian tigers. We are not going to invent a wheel, but they were not developed the way we are moving. In the plan, in the planning he's mentioning, I'm not seeing that radical shift. For instance, when you look at Singapore, it's just a rock, but Lee Kuan Yew said, "Okay, you have given me powers, let me use them." Littering in the city, 20 years in prison of hard labor. But here, what is that? Because I know at times I use my own example. I used it to be a naughty boy. I used to like fighting. But my mother, whenever she could see you near the third door, she could pick this finger and it touches and it burns you. And from that time, you realize that fire is bad. We must, although we are talking of good things, where these incentives that will not allow people to be lazy on job, that will not allow people to be corrupt, that will keep the country ahead of everything. Because as we do this budgeting, it is true, 30% is for debt servicing, which is okay. But me, I'm asking, this little money that goes to the ministries and MDAs, what does it do? Where are these laws which says that if Mwine has touched public funds, he should act as an example to everybody? Where is that framework? Otherwise, you'll find that you are like fetching water
Putting in a basket.
in an open basket. Yes, money is coming, the plan is there. For instance, do you know why one of the reasons why we have a lot of shunted trading centers? Because people are developing faster than the government. To get the plan
True.
come out of a government agency takes about 4 years. But Kenneth has his money, he wants to put up a house.
That is what you see
He
on the
cannot wait
skyline
for
in
you.
Marara.
He cannot wait for you.
Yeah.
So we must make some reforms. People want to develop, but the government is very slow. And people are not going to wait for you.
Can I give some information?
And unfortunately, maybe time may not allow us.
Because again, we cannot bring in government to Yambi. I said my grandfather was a chief who never went to a blackboard. But there was Bulunji was
No.
how you kept a road.
But which time?
The challenge is the government has taken over.
Let me give you an example.
And as a planner,
That's a mistake.
you know that's where the
Mr.
issue is.
Kwago, you remember in that time you're talking about, you could meet a parish chief with 50 men on one rope taking them to prison.
Now you are talking.
Hey, but now you touch who?
And the people
Now you touch who?
But now but now we have RDCs.
One man.
RDCs who are making more money. Let's hear from Imam Edi Kasozi.
Now, you see, issues touching the budget and what ought to be done must be systematic. And you must have the goal. You see, our big goal, we call it hadaf. They call it hadaf. The big goal is scanted, is scattered, and therefore, sometimes you begin asking yourself, what is it? Because when you look at this, your paper here,
where is the focus?
when you look at the paper, you realize, say, hey, it is very good, because you are saying infrastructure development. The package includes provisions of developing value addition, transportation, storage for infrastructure, petroleum, and whatever. All this, when you look at them, on paper they are good. But do we have the technocrats to implement it? I have looked, for example, I have looked at a leaked document from is it CAA? Civil Aviation Authority, where people went there, recruited very many people with no basis at all. And when they said to size down, still they threw away the qualified ones and retained. You see, soon it may land on maybe on some table and maybe
Competitive meritocracy.
so you cannot work like that. In my simple of working, for example, when I was joining farming, I visited the late Rwanda, and he asked us, because we were younger men, yeah, my children, do you have time? Because he said,
No,
do you have time to go to do farming? He said, if you do not have a minimum of at least 24 hours per week, don't venture into any farming activity. Whether it is animal rearing, whether it is cultivation, you will never. Because every other time, by the time you reach, many new explanations will come. If you are in animal farming, for example, you may not have any calf which is female in the crowd. You okay? You may not have, or you can come and find you have a generation, but you don't have those that are immediate following them. You see the gap between the young ones and the first generation, huge. Reason? Because they are manipulating you. So you have to have the time, visit. Most of these things are the way they are because they are premised on wrong premises.
All right.
And lastly, in logic we say, okay, in logic they say, if the premise is false and the statement is false, you cannot have a true conclusion.
Very quickly, we have the last word from you, Mr. Donald.
Framework.
Actually, where he has stopped is where I want to start from, because you see, first in a society you must have a value system. Then from a value system you can have working systems. Now, the process of budgeting is one of those functional or working systems of a polity like Uganda.
All right.
Now, the budget that you're talking about here is you are telling us to you are telling us to put the cart before the horse.
All right, all right.
We don't have values. Which values am I talking about? I'm talking about someone refusing to wash their hands before coming to the dining table.
All right.
We have no discipline. Yeah, this is what the colleagues are saying.
I'm afraid I have to cut you short there, Mr. Gesa. Thank you very much, dear gentlemen, for making time for this discussion. Thank you very much, listeners, for tuning in. I've been your host, Kenneth Anderson Lubago, wishing you a fabulous weekend.
Happy Mother's Day.